and welcome to episode 1 of Looking Up here on Sorare TV. I am Andrew Laird. You may know me as the head of content over at Sorare Data, joined this week and every week by Mr. Sam Tighe of Ranks FC and Mr. Harry Trades of the Harry Trades YouTube channel. Gentlemen, nice to talk to you. Sam, I think I'm going to give you the honors of explaining to everyone what on earth we're doing here.
Yeah, sure. I mean, first of all, this is called Looking Up with Laird. So you've done the title wrong immediately. But look, you're a modest guy. I can understand it. But this is clearly Looking Up with Laird. But Harry and I, and sometimes yourself, although not this week, maybe in the future, basically want to gather around the mics once a week and look at some situations in football that look like they're turning for the better. So we'll pick out some players that look like their situation is about to improve quite dramatically. And that's why we say things are looking up for this player or that player. And I think, look, the driving force behind it is that we're all looking for value on Sorare. We're all looking to buy into good situations early. Part of this game is identifying things that are about to change and identifying those situations nice and early so you can get in at the bottom of the graph and then maybe get out of the top rather than the other way around, which I've done a few times. I'm sure we all have. So that's what we want to do. And we'll go across Europe, under 23s, over 23s, and we'll take a look at certain situations every week.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to explain it all. I will say that we claim that I'm here hosting Looking Up with Laird. I think the big reason is that I tend to focus more on statistics and data for myself, and that actual football scouting and knowledge of tactics is well out of my expertise, but it seems to fit in perfectly with you two gentlemen. So that's why it seemed like a good way to get the three of us together to discuss players like this. We're going to start with Mr. Trades, who tends to focus on under 23s. Harry, do you ever actually look at players over 23?
Sorry, you broke up a little bit, but I'm pretty sure you asked me if I have any over 23s. Was that correct?
Yes.
So yeah, technically I do, but they still are under 23 eligible, if that makes sense.
That doesn't count.
So they are 24 as we speak. I mean... so no, to answer the question, no, I don't. I have one limited Suso card that I won in the weekly game week 200 a little while ago. That just holds a nice place in my heart. And he actually started last night for the first time in forever. So no, apart from that, no, everyone else is theoretically under 23 on Sorare.
That was not the response I was expecting at all. When you were like, yes, I do, but they're under 23 eligible. So yes, perfect for that. So why don't you lead us off with one of the players that is why we should be looking up for them?
Yeah, so my first player of the two is a 24-year-old, coincidentally, that goes by the name Zion Fleming, as Sam would like me to call him. Thank you, Sam, for the help on that one, pronunciation-wise. But yeah,
I looked it up. I was like, well, I don't know how to say that name, and I bet no one else does either. So I looked it up, and yeah, I found an interview with when he used to play for, I think it was Pek Zwolle, like 4 years ago, and they introduced him as Zion Fleming. But Zion sounds like such a better name. You can go with that if you want.
Yeah, I do like. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like there's just a little bit more purpose to Zion than Zion. But anyway, yeah, like, to be honest, the two players that I've picked, they do have a place in my gallery, and I guess for the first episode, it kind of makes sense to sort of, I don't know, for me, just to point out sort of, these looking better situations that are quite close to home, and obviously if I have them in my gallery, I can kind of speak on them quite in depth. And Zion's sort of form, I guess, and situation is definitely turned for the better. He's got an L5 right now of 61, I believe, and 4 goals in 7 starts. And the big thing for me before he scored, so he scored 3 in his last 2. Before that, he was struggling for goals. He scored 1 goal that was originally an own goal, was given as his goal after the game. And yeah, he was really struggling, but there was one sort of key sort of stat that I was sort of pinning my hopes on, which was like he was just getting off so many shots every game. I think he still averages 3.4 shots per game right now, and that's 1.5 on target, which is actually the third highest in the championship. And yeah, the fact that I saw that, and don't get me wrong, I wasn't watching every Millwall game religiously, but I was definitely watching highlights. And you know, and from what I was hearing from like a few journalists that watch Millwall religiously, basically he was the only attacking output that the Millwall have in terms of like scoring goals right now. They do have a few other options off the bench and stuff, but there's just nothing that they can pin their hopes on. And yeah, it was just, for me, I know he's only scored 4 goals and it's, you know, in 7 games. It's a very small sort of data set, but I just think he's kind of replicating or on the way to replicating his form that he had in the Eredivisie for Fortuna.
Yep.
And yeah, Millwall have started to win a few more games of late. And I just feel like, you know, he's a record signing. I'm not saying this couldn't have gone wrong as a move, but I just think it was a matter of time with what I was looking at in terms of like how many shots he was taking and stuff. That, you know, eventually the ball was going to hit the back of the net is basically what I'm getting at. And it looks like it has started to do so.
Yeah, I remember when, because I believe you bought him before the move. Is that correct?
I did.
So he was a very popular U23 forward option going into the season, even when he was with Fortuna. And like, that wasn't like a perfect situation, but it was certainly good. And it looked like he had some nice development happening anyway. And I remember when he moved to Millwall, everyone was kind of like, I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's probably closer to good than bad. And the expectation was he was going to play. Like you said, he was a record signing. So playing time wasn't going to be an issue. It's not, you know, we have kind of that issue when it comes to U23. Sometimes they take a big step up and then all of a sudden their minutes kind of leave. And he was fortunate enough to find a situation where he was going to keep playing. All So Rare Card owners are thankful for moves like that. I am not a championship expert, but I've heard that this upcoming schedule is also pretty friendly for him as well.
Yeah, I mean, you know, naturally, there's whether there's a World Cup or not, there's always sort of 2 games a week for championship players. Unfortunately, you know, Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, whatever way that sort of falls. And yeah, you know, for whatever reason, it doesn't seem like, especially the players on Sorare, like your Howard Bellis's, or all the guys that are kind of popular on Sorare that, you know, that play in the championship. You know, you could categorize them in the younger sort of age range, so maybe they don't need the rest, but for the most part you just don't see as much sort of rotation, because like Millwall can't afford to rotate Zion Fleming. Like, right. It's just as simple as that. They can't afford to not score goals is the way I look at it. And he's only going to get better by playing. Don't get me wrong, that could, you know, constitute into like, you know, 60 minutes here and whatever. Like I understand that, like limited minutes, but I just don't see there being, unless he's really on a big drought, for him to really not play. And yeah, midweek utility, like I just mentioned, obviously we have new second divisions on Sorare now, so he can kind of obviously fall into there, as well as under 23 until June or July next year. Takes free kicks. One of his 4 goals this season has been a free kick, and although it was a deflection, but regardless. And yeah, I think you can get like his limited for around, like I looked on Sorare earlier, like £60 odd, and a rare, you know, there's a couple up for over 500. I'm not sure you could actually buy him for right now, depending on, you know, what somebody's willing to let him go for. But for that type of price, if he's going to put up, you know, the scores that he's done over the last few games, like I said, small sample size, I get it. But we know he can score goals at a decent enough level. Playing for Fortuna, who are a really struggling side, they just scraped relegation thanks to Zion himself. So yeah, for me, it seems like a really nice situation. Don't get me wrong, the fact that he's like 24 and ages out, I don't love that situation, but I think he's good for, you know, a good while. And if you don't care about under 23s, then I think he's good for, you know, 1, 2, 3 years. Because I'll be honest, I don't think he's good enough to play in the Premier League. I don't see that happening for him. I just don't see that personally. I don't know if, you know, what Sam's opinion of that is, but I just don't see that he has enough pace to really and intensity in his game to really make it there. But that's just my sort of novice opinion. But yeah, that's definitely my first player and somebody that I think has some really good games ahead of him. There's still probably 30 odd games left of the championship or whatever it is. I'm not sure exactly, but there's a load of utility left. Obviously, we do have the World Cup. But yeah, no, I do think his situation is definitely looking up.
Not being good enough for the Premier League actually sounds like a positive. It seems like there's no part where he moves there and then stops playing.
Yeah, maybe. Millwall, I mean, I don't think
100%,
anyone's looking at Millwall. People don't tend to look at Millwall season to season and think that they're like genuine promotion candidates. Yeah, they've been in the Championship forever. So that could work in his favour. I don't know really anything about Zian Fleming except what Harry said. But obviously we do know the Championship kicks back in once basically the World Cup group stage is over, more or less. I think they get the second part of that. So just as half your World Cup players go out at the group stage, your Championship players can kick back in, so you can get Zian in there with other players that might be in a round of 16 or something like that. So there's a nice bit of utility there for sure. And the rotation thing, I've noticed this too. I swear, I don't know what it is, but the Championship clubs must and the managers must know, like, the conditioning that's required to play Championship football on that schedule and not rotate. Basically, I bet they don't do any tactical work. They just do recovery sessions the entire time. And the tactics are a little bit more, rudimentary down there at times. So it wouldn't surprise me if it's mostly physical stuff. And that's why these guys can churn out 42 to 46 games.
It's so many games, so many.
Yeah.
I do love that you started out with calling him Zian and then switched to Zion like rather quickly, Harry. That's it just worked.
I had to go back to my roots.
It's habits, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Before we go to the next one,
it's very hard to break a habit.
Before we go to the next one, I'm just going to let everyone know that we're going to have a Sorare Data watch list of all of the players that we're adding or that we're discussing today. This will be a public one. It's just going to be called Looking Up Sorare TV Episode 1. Maybe we'll come up with something a little more exciting to make it easier to track them. But these are the lists that you'll be able to anybody will be able to pull up to see exactly who we discussed on each show. Sam, who do you have to kick us off?
Okay, someone much older than Zian Fleming. I, unlike Harry, do not mind looking at people aged 24 and over and not thinking they're about to keel over. I'm going to go for a 31-year-old forward who we all know is absolutely no secret whatsoever. It's Antoine Griezmann. I mean, by no secret, I mean, that's an understatement. He's won a World Cup. He's won La Liga. He's won a Europa League. He's been a Champions League runner-up. And he's had a hell of a career. But things haven't been great for him over the last couple of seasons. That might be about to change, just in very simple ways. And I'd go as far as to say that for the first time in a couple of years, Antoine Griezmann might just be happy again. And that counts for a lot. As you've probably seen, anyone watching, there's been some absolute nonsense regarding his contract situation with Barcelona and Atletico Madrid, a squabble over minutes played. It's meant that he's only been able to play 30 minutes per game. He's been stuck on the bench quite a lot. And this has been really difficult for Atleti and Simeone's stomach because they very clearly want to make him the cornerstone of their team. Simeone loves him, absolutely loves him. I wouldn't be surprised if he sees him as a son, really, in many ways. But you can't make a cornerstone player in your team if you can only play 30 minutes. You just can't. It doesn't work. So finally, Atleti and Barca have come to this agreement and they've sorted the fee that they're going to have to pay for Griezmann to make him permanent, which means there are no more restrictions on his minutes, which means he can play. So huge for Atleti, huge for Griezmann. Huge for France. Given the injuries that France are facing, potentially heading into this World Cup, probably no Pogba. Can say we haven't seen for like a month. Rafael Varane's currently injured. Kimpembe's currently injured. Luca Hernandez did his groin just before the international break. It's a long list of players that you would expect to be playing proper roles for France, and they're not available. If Griezmann was walking into this tournament having only played 30 minutes a game for two months, it would have just added to the problems. But there's now an opportunity over the next month to basically fix that, and for Griezmann to get peak fitness, peak sharpness ahead of the World Cup. So for Griezmann, I'm looking at a player who we know is or has been at the elite level in this game. We're looking at a player who's probably in a much better mental place than he was 3 weeks ago, which counts for a lot. If he can become the cornerstone player of this team, a consistent starter, he's got midweeks, he's got Champions League. We know he's excellent. He'll take penalties. He's an established goal scorer. He's got a World Cup. And I looked at his price. Now, if you look at his price, I mean, I just didn't think it was particularly offensive considering all those things.
Yeah, I think honestly, the contract situation was one of my favorite things about football. The pure absurdity of not only recognizing this minutes restriction, but also fully playing into it that like every game at the 60th minute, he jumps up and like runs over to play. And obviously he wants to play. The team like is better with him on the pitch. And so, yeah, they finally figured out a way to allow him to play more. Do you see any issue in terms of the other Atletico Madrid forwards that could eat into his time? Or you said before, you think that they're going to build this attack around him. So do you think he's just straight 90s for as long as we can think?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be concerned for all the other forwards, basically. It's probably the way I'd put it. I mean, we are sort of guessing at this point, but Simeone and Griezmann's history together, and given the way he thinks about him, given the way he sees him, like I would not be surprised if he's just like, right, Grizzy, you're my guy again. Like, let's rely on you. Let's get you running. And everybody else in that forward rotation then has to just kind of make do with whatever they're given. And there are a lot of mouths to feed. I know, like Cunha's a good player, Correa's a good player, Morata's a good player, Felix. They're supposed to be putting lots of effort into making the most out of that investment. There's a lot going on there, but they've also just sunk a lot into Griezmann, and he's got the history. He's got the manager on his side. If he's anything close to what he was in 2016, 2017, that sort of support striker, drop between the lines, shoot from distance, half playmaker, half finisher, like you're onto a winner. And I know it's been a little while, so you are sort of asking yourself, can he get back there? And I know that you may not want to own a card of his because look at the state of that kit. It is disgusting and you may not want to look at it. But ultimately, I think he might end up being a very effective player. And you know, for about 100 quid for a limited or whatever, there's $130 or so for a limited. And I think it was about 0.5 for a rare. I know he doesn't have that like longevity from an under 23 perspective, but like, you could do a lot worse than that. And if you, like me, think that Griezmann is going to come good again now with a much clearer situation at hand, then yeah, his price may not stay like this for too much longer.
I know that a lot of people hesitate to plan around getting players for the World Cup, but he sure seems like one that you would want for the World Cup. I mean, he may not score every game for France, but like it seems like big moments for them, he's involved, and obviously they're considered one of the favorites even with all of the injuries. And so it feels like a bit of a, I don't even want to call it sneaky. It's weird to call Antoine Griezmann sneaky, but it's like a sneaky ad if you are somebody who wants to kind of participate in World Cup, which we still don't really know exactly what Sorare have in store, but it feels like it should be something big. And he could be a big part of it for sure.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, 100%. I think, like, obviously we don't, as we always say, as many people say whenever they're doing Sorare content over the last couple of months, you've said it too, don't buy a player just because he's in the World Cup. But if he's playing in the World Cup and he plays for France and you think you can get lots of utility and there's good things to come from him, then it's a double tick, I guess, is probably how I'd put it.
Yep, absolutely. And we've seen his price. It looks like the last limited went for £139, which I think is still down. Like, I think people are here. We're seeing a bit of a run up. It looked like the move, or when he was stagnant with the 30 minutes per game, his price fell a little bit. I mean, getting it as low as 53 in what is that, early September is quite a grab. But yeah, I think there's plenty of space for this to go. And as we see, like he was much more expensive 6 months ago when he was playing all the time. So I like that shout. Mr. Trades, on to you.
Yeah, just want to add. Yeah, I can't disagree with that first shout from Sam. I like it a lot. Yeah, my second player is a lad called Callum Slattery, that plays for Motherwell in the Scottish Premiership. Midfielder, plays CDM, centre mid, right mid. One thing I did sort of notice today about his card is that there's no new pictures, so it looks like he's going to keep his XP for the whole season. And yeah, it's a player that I've owned since last from the off season last year. I ended up buying 2 super rares for like £70 and like £100. Yeah, one of my best mates that I played in college with in America went to school with him, to be fair. And yeah, he's a Southampton Youth Academy prospect, as Sam will know very well. And yeah, was there up into the under 23s. He was highly rated, I think. I don't know so much about like within the first team parameters, but definitely within the youth setup, he was, one of the next sort of big guns to try and sort of break through at some point. Maybe didn't quite work out. Had a few loan deals. Anyway, ended up at Motherwell, and yeah, his last few scores have sort of caught my eye. And he's not someone that I've used. I've used him in a few underdogs recently. Yeah, I think he's scored 2 goals so far this season. He did DMP for 2 games, which it was a personal reason, which I won't get into. But regardless, he's come back from that with an 80, a 20 AA and a goal from CDM against Ross County. And then that's 17, is it? Or yes, 16.4 AA against Hibernian in a 1-0 loss. Like he just seems to just do a bit of everything. He's not spectacular at anything. I wouldn't say. He averages 1.2 interceptions a game, 2 tackles per game, which we know is vital to get your doubles and your triple triples. Sorry. And yeah, it just seems like he's growing into a player that constitutes a good enough AA to where if he does grab a decisive, you're looking really good. Like if you can get a few 80s out of him this season, then you're in a good position, especially as a super because that's 100 points. And likewise with a rare, if you can get him to 10 XP because the XP staying, then that's looking like a 90. So like, yeah, I think for his price, I think you can get a limited. I saw him on the market earlier, £3.50. A rare's like
so
£18.
So cheap. Oh my god, it's so cheap.
It is cheap. I'm not sure if people realize about the picture thing. I only saw that today myself, and other Motherwell players have their pictures. So yeah, whether he gets added later on, of course, that's unknown. But yeah, if he's as an ETH grinder, like I don't see what more you'd really want. I know last season he was taking set pieces, which was the reason why I actually ended up buying 2 of his supers. I only have 1 now, but regardless, this season it doesn't look like he's been given that sort of role, as far as I'm aware, or as prominent as he did last season. Oh, he has. That's interesting. When I go on his sofa score, it never seems to light up for me in terms of like the dark.
Maybe he runs over and takes a quick short one. Maybe
yeah, that's interesting.
Let's see, last 5
possibly. Yeah, but that's obviously even better, to be honest. Now that I've seen that, but yeah, that was one of the reasons why I bought into him last season, like I said. But yeah, for the price, I mean, not financial advice, but it seems to me like a decent enough deal. Look,
we need a bell. Again, we need to have a bell that we can ring when someone says
it's hard enough. It's hard enough to like, these are small sort of data sets that we're going off. It's just, will be 9 games into the season. He's played 6 or 7, so it's hard to really judge what's gonna happen. But for what I've seen recent, like in terms of the games he has played, the AA is something that I sort of want from my midfielder. And if he can get a decisive as well, like I mentioned, then you're sort of flying. Is kind of the way I look at it.
I was not expecting these prices when I saw these scores. Like it's as simple as that.
I'm gonna go buy one.
Scottish League. I think it just gets. I do think the Scottish League does get neglected somewhat. Outside of your big teams, your Celtics.
And
obviously,
you just got
don't have Rangers on the platform. I just think.
But you had 2 of them.
I traded one off to Pavel. Yeah, so I bought 2 within like a couple of days. I don't know if you can get the days, but yeah, they auctioned off 2 very quickly, and it was just a bit like, I don't know why they're doing that. I think it might have been the same day.
Let's see here.
You might want to check that.
June
Not
25.
that really matters, but I'm pretty sure it was the same day.
Yep. Same day.
Yeah, it was the same day. Yeah.
How strange.
Yeah. Yeah, I just didn't need to be completely honest. And you know, I needed a card from Pavel, as we all do at some point in our lives. So yeah, it just made sense. And yeah, no, I'm really happy to say that I still have one, because yeah, these scores, like I mentioned, do sort of stand out to me. Like you said, at the price, I just can't really complain, basically.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, actually, just going on the open market, and there's a fair few limiteds for sale. 5 of them are listed by Pavel Trader. So yeah.
I'm going to end up with one of those. I'm just going to say right now, one of those will be mine.
Just about to buy. I'm picking one now.
Yeah. Yeah. This is what happens since these shows aren't live. So apologies to everybody that we're collecting these cards as as we're pumping them here. So
the thing is, he does age out as well, but you know, for a good 5 or 6 months,
you're right.
You've got a player that, you know, can fit into under 23s, can fit into global, challenger, whatever you want, basically.
Yeah, I would even argue that he may be better as just a ETH grinder as opposed to competing for under 22. Although I guess he does pop a little bit. That should be enough. But yeah, he's got Rangers and Celtic in his next 5, so those will be tough. But the others,
yeah, doesn't help.
Right.
Yeah.
There it is.
Transfer in progress. Got him.
There he is.
Look, honestly, you've obviously sung his praises. Great, good situation. Also, like, given I work for Southampton and he is a former Southampton boy, like, I just feel like for £3 I should probably get on board and back my good friend Harry as well. So yeah, very good.
There you go. That's great. All right, Sam, do you want to take us to our last one of the day?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on a kind of seemingly like a similar train of thought here to Harry, although my option is a bit more deluxe than a Motherwell holding midfielder. I'm going to go with Manuel Ugarte, who's 21-year-old Uruguayan midfielder, plays for Sporting. Had a bit of a crisis this morning as I was trying to figure out how to say his name. Found a video of him pronouncing his own name, and he seems to miss out the G. He says Manuel Ugarte, which is, I presume, some kind of like Uruguayan, like Latin, South American, like twang on it. But I'm going with Ugarte because my friend who's Uruguayan has told me to do that. So sorry, Manuel. But look, we're talking about, you know, things are looking up for certain players. Things are looking up for Manuel Ugarte on a very basic level. He now has cards. He didn't have cards, now he does. Things are good. Life is good for Manuel Ugarte. He joined Sporting last summer and has done the whole season with them, and they just never released any. And I don't really get it. Like, I think he joined like August the 8th or something as well. So it wasn't like a deadline day they never really got round to doing. They just didn't bother. Whether they forgot about him or thought he'd go to the B team, or I don't know. Either way, don't know. It didn't really matter in the first half of last season because he didn't really play very much. But from about January to February, he started to take over from João Paulinho in holding midfield. And he even, I think, started a game against Benfica, proper Lisbon derby, in about February instead of Paulinho. So then they sold Paulinho to Fulham in the summer, and now this is his midfield, like it's Ugarte's midfield. And he's starting to boss it. Those recent scores look really, really nice. There's 3 particularly good-looking ones in his last 6 there, I think. 62 against Spurs, 66 against Boavista, a couple of high 50s. We'll ignore the Marseille game, Laird. That was clearly Antonio Adan's fault and a total nightmare. But the 100 against Eintracht without a decisive.
That's wild.
Insane. He got 8 tackles in that game. 8 tackles. He basically broke the matrix. So yeah, I mean, look, this is what he is. He's a sitting midfielder. He's a tough tackler. I mean, he's Uruguayan. A lot of stereotypes do apply to him. He's a relatively basic, like, recycled passer, but crunches around, dives around, covers territory, great work rate, great determination, all that stuff. And he's a good player. Now that he's been given the role, I'm just assuming he gets better and better. And he's 21, So he's got lots of room to grow. He's only really just getting started here, stepping into Polina's shoes. And I'm assuming that really these scores are not a flash in the pan. Now that he's been given that role and he's been given the cadence and the ability to just kind of run game to game, that this is going to be pretty standard.
I can't stop looking at this game. I feel like this is what everyone was hoping to get with Lucas Torreira. That's what it reminds me of. And I don't think we ever saw a game like this from Lucas Torreira. So maybe there was one, and that's what spawned the Arsenal move. But yeah, I think this is a great shout. And we do have this sort of weird thing where it's almost like we're still working through price discovery because obviously the cards have just come. We've got let's see what in pounds. We're now down to 82 ish. Oh, it was an hour ago. Okay. So all auctions and everybody who's buying isn't selling yet, but obviously you can see that there are a ton of auctions still going. But yeah, I think anytime you can get a nailed on starter for a top level team in any league who is also only 21 years old, that's a pretty good path to go down.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I love this kind of like, I love and hate this little period where we're on price discovery for the new cards. And we're seeing it a lot with some of the championship cards as well. Now, it doesn't really apply to Zian Fleming because obviously he had cards before, but like I've just gone through something where like, I won't say his name actually, because I'll probably save him for episode 2 or episode 3, depending on what happens. But I've just gone through and bought a championship midfielder, and I was just watching like auction 1 down to like 16 and just trying to figure out where the price is. And to be honest with you, by about the fifth card, the price was in half, and then by the 10th card, the price was a quarter of the first mint. So it's a funny one. It's probably worth holding out a little bit for Ugarte here, but not too long. Of course, we don't even know as we sit here. We don't even know what the rare price is going to be. I guess that auction is still going, but I bet it's 500 or more because he's obviously very good. What is it?
744 right now.
Woo! Out of my price range.
Yeah.
Out of my price range. He is also going to go to the World Cup, but I do not expect him to be playing a particularly pivotal role there. I think he's got about 6 caps, but they've got Fede Valverde and they've got Rodrigo Bentancur. So maybe don't factor that into your thinking. So take a look at this one if you're a challenger heavyweight, if you want to build a sporting stack, or if you're under 23s, I like him a lot.
Or you just get ahead on the 2026 World Cup lineup. Surely he breaks in by then.
Well, it'll be a 10% card by then.
Right. Just what we all want. And he'll, let's see. Oh, he would have aged out by then. Oh, well.
Oh, man. Never mind.
I was not expecting Sam to actually bring out the youngest player on our list here.
No. I don't expect it that often. I quite like the balance that Harry and I can strike because he's obviously very under 23 focused, and I'm not so much. But yeah, given he just got minted, I was like, he's got to go in this week. This is my pick. Yeah,
no, I think that's definitely a good shout. So like I said, we're gonna have this watch list is available to everyone. I say that, and maybe we can make it public now. So yeah, if you want to look this up, we'll be adding, maybe we should add each time. I can't decide yet what the best method is here because a 4-player watch list isn't all that sexy to follow, but surely we will figure something out. Is there anything you guys want to add before we go?
Nope.
All right, great. So thank you to you two for those player picks. And thank you to everybody who is watching. If you could please hit the like button on the video. We're trying to get going here. There's going to be a little bit of a competition, to be honest, with all of the contributors here on Sorare TV about who's the favorite. And the easiest way to show who your favorite is just liking the videos that you like. So please like this one. You should probably like the other ones, but if you could like this one more, that would be always helpful. And we'll be back next week for some more players whose situations are looking up. Thank you, everybody.